right, I'm all right. Fine. Can you see me? Oh. All right, having difficulties here. So I should go back just a minute. I have to delete those. Oh dear. All right, that one, delete. This one. All right, sorry guys. I am not techie. That's all I gotta say. Hi, Kathy, Gail, Joan, Laura, Nicole. I tried to put on a scheduled screen, and then I couldn't go live. It kept saying I have to enter encoder. Well, I've never done an encoder. Ah! So I'm here. So today we're going to do a step-by-step of an oil, or not oil, an owl painting, kind of a Christmas painting. You don't have to use it as a Christmas painting, though. You could change up the, this is the traceable, and I will leave a link in the description after I'm done that you can download this and you can redo the video and play along. It's a very easy one. There's not a whole lot of steps to this, and I will guide you through it all. And I did a practice one to show you what it looked like, or maybe you already saw it on that screenshot. Where did I put it now? I don't see where I put it. On here? Nope. Oh, here it is. There's the little guy. And we'll be doing him. Kathy, could you show one of your file folders? People came over from Laura's and are interested in seeing them. Yeah, sure. Will you be doing them next year also? Yes, I will be. I will be continuing my file folder journey. I just like using them. They're a great substrate to use for practicing if you don't want to buy a journal. And some people get a little bit nervous about even working in their journals. So yeah, they're fun. And you know, every year, every month, I think up new things to put in it or how to arrange it or whatever. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So yeah, it's been fun. So I'll show you some of them. Let's see. So each month I've done a file folder, and they're all different. They're all different topics, or mine are specifically for my artwork. So whatever I've done for that month, and there's newspapers, I just shove them in. Hi, Eileen, Sherry, Christy, Nana, Beck. Good to see you all. So I believe it was February we started with. I haven't done January, so I got to do that. I do have the loose artwork that I did last January. So this is one we did in January, and there's a video on most of these. This was a little acrylic painting I did with the paper houses that I just glued on. And it's kind of like a scrapbooking and art combined, really. No, there we go. So this is the art that I did in February. So this was watercolor. We played along with granulation medium, salt, and I streamed that on February 6th. So I write down where and if I streamed. So you can, it's basically whatever you want to do. If you're into, you could even put fabric in here. You could put ribbon, beads, whatever. There's no rules to this. It's whatever you're doing that month. I keep a record of it, and you can make little pockets. These are envelopes. I added ribbon, die cuts. There's another watercolor I did. And then I just have a little pocket, and this happens to be a piece of material, and I just wrote down what I did that month, and I just have kind of a little memory of that in here. There's another painting I did, and I just made a little corner tucks for it, and that one I also did on stream. So, and then this is scrapbook paper. This one I use scrapbook paper with some stamping on it, and then I always do the back too. So when probably the end of the month, I will bind this all into a book. So the Coptic stitch is what I'm thinking I'm going to do. We'll see. It's a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed this. So this is the little painting we did on stream. It's another one. Different watercolors that I did. That goes, no, it goes this way, I think. Another pocket with notes. So whatever I did on that month, I wrote down in here. Scrapbook paper in the background. You can use paper bags. You can use whatever you can dream up, really. I like a little tucks. I've used jelly plate background, and then I just watercolored a bird and cut it out and then glued that on. Acrylic paint. There's another one I did. It's got some rope on it and 3D. There I put a little, what do you guys call them? Snippet. But this one is actually I think I glued that on. No, I didn't. There, little snippets of paper. This was a stream that I did. That's background with a little bit of acrylic paint. And then not much on that background. That's actually a jelly print that I just glued on. This is a collage, and then I painted the background and added the hair on her. A little pocket again with a watercolor. Just glued a bunch of newspapers and painted this willow, this pussy willow here. Here's my little information for the month, and I just slid it in there. Paper that I just liked the way it was, so I just glued the whole thing on there. These were the houses, the Fibsville that we did. They were fun. So there's my house, there's Zandra's house, that was Janet's house, Kathy's house, Jean's house. That was the bar get together where we all meet at Roy's. Lena's castle in Denmark. Art retreat, and that was, who was that again? Oh, that was Patty Tully Parish. There's Eileen's. It's called Eileenazon. Colleen's. She's got like a curbillion birds all over the place, and she has a line direct to Eileen for her Amazon stuff. There's Dee Dee's. She's got a big clock. That was fun. Then little rabbit wrote some stuff on it. That was from Daphne's Diary book. Another painting we did online to see if we could try to do a scrapbook paper similar to it. So I was showing you can make your own designs if you want. And this is all scrapbook paper. That's the back. That was a drawing I did on top of scrapbook paper. There's some paste in here. There's embossing, a little collage, some stenciling. This is a real leaf from a fern. A little drawing of my bunnies that I had in my vegetable garden. This is a seed pack I made. And that's another letter. I wrote about the day. And it's just a little pocket that I keep it in. There's the darn squirrels that keep eating my plants. And that was just a, this was the leaf prints that we did on the jelly plate. And I glued it on here and just put some paste on with a stencil, a little bit of newspaper around the edges. June, we did this on a stream. Or was this one of our classes? I can't remember. I think it was a stream. And we were seeing if we could duplicate somebody's style. It was a class? Okay. There's my embossing, live plant embossing. So this is actually the color you get from those plants that transfer onto the watercolor paper. So then they haven't, this was in June and they still haven't faded. So they're still as vibrant as they were when I first did them. So we have a ton of those. This was a class of doing kind of a pop-up with butterflies. Now, I haven't written in it. The idea was to use this part and write in your day or your month, whatever you did. So there's a number of sections you can write in it. That was class. And then I just have a little thing that I close it with. That was I think we did this on a stream, and this is gel paste through a stencil, and I painted this with acrylic paint. That's just a collage piece there. This was a class, and it's all paper piecing and acrylic paint. That was fun. I really enjoyed that. And it's all about shading. And this was this was my I was really getting into fairies. So this was my fairies in a squished book. You know this what is it called? Pressed fairies, I think it's called. Well, this is my version of it. So I even put washi tape to hold them down. And then I just painted some leaves. That was another gel print of leaves. There's another gel print, and I just, or no, not gel print, embossing print. And I actually used a fine line pen and just enhanced it a bit with some line work. This is just a picture of one of my streams. I did this painting on a stream. There's my other fairy trying to escape, and I had to staple them down. And there's the fairy that we did. This is a painting. So I did that on stream. Thanks, Kathy. Now this was another class, and we did a bunch of work with stencils and Posca pens, and then negative painting and a little bit of shading using some stencils. That was a lot of fun. And there was another one we did, or I did after that, just myself, of showing how you can use your stencils and a little bit of oil pastel to highlight and shade in areas. That's a pretty ugly one, but I just got my pastels, and she's got her face pressed up against the glass. That's why it looks like that. We were kind of laughing when we did this one. But it was to see how to do these oil pastels, and then I put a wax finish on it, and it doesn't come off. So if you're looking for something to put on your finished oil pastels, you can get a wax. This is another painting I did. I think I did this offline though. Then I did some more fairies. This is a little creature, and I used I actually picked leaves and flowers. This was a dead tiger lily, and I actually scanned it and then printed it out, and then I used that for its head. And this was real leaves here for its wings. This is Queen Anne's lace that I dried and then glued it in for his little skirt. And this is actually carrots, baby carrots that grew really weird. So I made them in feet. So I photocopied them and made them into feet. And there's trying out some white pen on black paper. And then these are Queen Anne's lace glued on as leaves for a tree. That turned out cool. There's, I believe this was paint and colored pencil on black paper. That was watercolor and colored pencil. Same thing, watercolor, colored pencil, same. And then you can use your edge, your borders, you know, the punches for your border. Who made them? The Fiskars had them. Ecoline has some. Martha Stewart has them. Carrots. Then just some notes for. Then this was all hand done. This border all around here, just something different to add to your folders. And that was just a picture of my painting, and then I just did some white pen work around it. This one is for November. Do I have October? October was this one. This was all done with stencil. And then these backgrounds are rice paper and pressed inked leaves. So the ink from the leaves actually come on this. Oh, welcome, Jersey, to the crew. Thanks for joining. And that's a watercolor and acrylic painting. So I was showing you how to use watercolor for that atmospheric look, but also add a bunch of acrylic for the detailed stuff. And these are ginkgo leaves that I found at a neighbor's. So I dried them, and then I put them in between laminate, and I laminated them and made it into a pocket. So I put some grommets on, or eyelets, and some string, just to do something different. This is a smoke bush flower that I actually dried and then laminated with some sequins. It's just a page, and I attached it with some fabric, and I sewed it to the laminate. And this one's another background with rice paper that I inked some leaves and put it through the embosser, and that's how they came out. And then I just drew this with black paint and then a little bit of blue pencil crayon. And that was our moon girl that we did in class. That was fun. And then in November, this was I did this on stream, and it was a napkin that I turned into trees. And then I added some bunnies and some leaves, a little bit of bush area. This was a painting. So I was showing how to take, this is a card from Patty Tolley Parrish, and she makes these great big watercolor paintings and then cuts them up, and this is part of that painting. So I showed you how you can enlarge this to make a larger version of it. So this is not quite the same because I didn't have any of the silver, so I put the blue iridizing on it. Got a little scrapbook paper, and it was fun. This is some ribbon used as a belly band. I used some more eco-printed fabric, and then this is a class for I think it was the second tier blooming artist, or no, budding artist, and that's done with acrylics, and you get a traceable with that. Playing with leaves. Made a little Christmas tree out of oak leaf. Put some sequins on it. And this was playing with leaves again and making a little scene with them. So all this is smoke bush flower is dried, and then leaves, and I painted with acrylic. What kind of iridescent did you use? That was the golden, what's it called? I think it was gold, blue gold or something, iridescent paint. And that was one of the classes we did, which let's see. So I made this. I made a bunch of them because there's so many ways you can do this. So this is the one we did in class. So it's an abstract forest or landscape, whatever you want to do. So it's basically using a lot of drippage, splotting a bunch of paint, and seeing what you can find in it as you're going. And about halfway through, I started seeing this valley, and so I started adding more bushes and trees. That was fun. So this one I did the same thing, but this time I cut it out. So I made a little hidden journaling area. So you can actually cut down your tree trunks or around your bushes, and you can make it into a little secret journaling spot. So it's fun, and that was what we did last week on stream. And there's a downloadable link for you to get the traceable for this if you want to try it out. It's fairly easy, and this background was just scrapbook paper, so I painted on top of scrapbook paper. So that was that. So today we're going to do this, and this is what your downloadable will look like. So if you want to come back to this stream after I'm done, give me about half an hour after I'm gone, and then I'll put the link in the description below where you can download your printable. What's that supposed to mean, Eileen? I had to get through a lot. So I thought I would do, I'm going to change it up a bit. I'm going to change a bit of the background color, but I'm just going to use a file folder again. So I like using file folders for testing out your paintings. Like if you haven't done much painting, it's always best to do a preliminary painting just to see how to go about doing it. Well, welcome, Terry. Thanks for joining. Make sure you look at all the comments in the membership page, because there will be a whole bunch of links for those traceables for you, and also for I did a bunch of the embossing papers for you, also of the leaves that you can use for whatever you want. So what I normally do is, like, this is an old folder and it's gotten messy because I've been playing. So I normally just put a gesso on my folders, because the folders will soak up your paint. So when you put a gesso on top of your folder, it stops that soaking up of your paint. It doesn't have to be like 3 coats or anything. This is just a practice. This is how you learn to paint, is by practice. No one, or it would have to be like 1% if someone could take a painting and do it perfect right off the bat. There's very few people that can. They always do a practice. It's like anything else. Singing, music, you have to practice if you want to get good at it. So I'll just take a heat gun and I will dry this. It's good to see you all. I have some new members, and thank you to everyone that is on my membership. I appreciate it. You help with my art process, and I'm able to do more for you and teach you more. I can get up. Eileen. Eileen, you need to get and start doing how to do digi. You started that a while ago, and you were doing really well at it, and then you stopped. And that really bummed me out. I want to learn more. My son lives in London, and he's too far away to teach me. I want to learn more. You're the digi queen. You need drugs to do that again. But it was so good. You were good at it. You want to make sure that this is really good and dry, because we're going to be putting a lot of paint on here. And if your paint isn't dry, and you go to put other paint on top of it, it actually picks up the other paint that you just put down. So you need to really keep it good and dry. Let's see. I'm just going to get some wax paper. I just want to protect what I have on the back of this. I've already goofed it up a bit, but it's practice. Just so that it doesn't get all yucky. All right, so with this, we need to start like all acrylic paintings, we start from the background and work our way up. So work our way to the foreground. So the background is like this area here behind the pine needles, behind everything that's here. So, but it's going to shine through bits and pieces of the pine needles. So we need to put a nice background in. Now you don't typically see or view everything with high detail. The background is usually blurred out in some way because you're focusing on the main subject, which is the owls and this. So the background is usually just a bunch of colors that you would think would be back there. Being that it's an evergreen, there's going to be a lot of different tones of green. If it's outside, maybe you want to put a little bit of soft blue in there. That's up to you. You can change this up for however you want to do it. If you want to stick with how I'm doing it, that's fine. You can do that. Kathy, hey Jane. So like I said, there will be a downloadable traceable for this. And that's what I'm going to be doing for the rest of the month. I will have traceables for you, and I hope you'll paint along. Now, next time I'll have it all ready for you. I don't know. I'm not very techy. So I'll have the links for you ready so you can play along with me, if that's good for you guys. So what we want to do is just get some paint. So I think there'll be you want fairly darker colors because it'll be in the shadows. So I'm just using craft paint. I always use craft paint for my practice paintings or journaling. I always use it because that way your pages don't stick together. So this one is Plantation Pine. You could use a sap green if you have the acrylics in artist grade or student grade. That'll work fine. Van Dyke Brown, you want a nice dark brown. Ooh, that doesn't sound very good. Let's see. That'll work. And then I think I'll do a little bit of maybe some cobalt blue, and I'll add a little bit of white to it maybe. You always use lots of white or even black. If you want to dull down colors, you could add just a touch of black. I'm going to put some black back there. And I'm going to use light buttermilk also. You could use buff, would work. And then I'm going to get some white. That's not white. Okay. So I got some white here. This is just whitewash, it's called. Any white will do, really. You don't have to worry about it. And this part is just throw some paint on. There's no precision in this part. So you just grab some colors. The only thing I like to do is in this area here, you probably want to keep it a little more darker. Not too dark though, but just a variation of different greens and browns. Maybe a tad bit of blue up in the top part where the sky would be. And then as you work down, make it just a little bit lighter. So we'll do some brown and green. And don't worry if you got brush marks, because a lot of this will be covered up. You can add white to it. Streaking is good because it adds texture, because you don't know what's back there. Let's see, I'll do a little bit darker there because I know that's where a lot of the brush. A little blue in here maybe. And maybe more green. A little bit of that. All right. So there we go. And we just threw on a bunch of colors. So now I'm going to dry it, and I want to make sure it's good and dry. Because if we paint on top of it and it was still tacky, it would lift this paint. And it's very difficult to cover that up again. So make sure your drying in between is good and dry. Nicole, I see a lot of people I haven't seen here before. Welcome, welcome, everybody. You never know if you can do it until you try. So that's why I say do it on a folder, do it in a journal that you're not too worried about having it go wrong in some way. Really, each piece you do, you learn. Sure you can, Laura. You can do this. Everyone can do this. Now the craft paint also dries in a matte finish. And that's when you'll know, can't see any shine to it anymore, then it's pretty well dry. And also if you touch it, if it's fairly cool to the touch, it's still not dry. You may have to go on the other side and dry that out too. The nice thing about the file folder is they don't warp. They stay flat. And they're cheap. Thanks, Laura. All right, now that's good and dry. Okay, so this time we're, like I said, we start from the back and work our way to the front. So it looks like there's quite a bit of evergreen in the back here. The bells do have some evergreen in front. Don't worry about putting the bells in yet. We can always go over top of the evergreen if you put some evergreen in with the bell and then just come back with the evergreen. So let's try and put a little bit of this evergreen in first. So what I didn't put all the little needles on because I wanted to show where the stems were. Now, if you don't want all of those stems, take some out. You can change this up as much as you want. So either eye it, or you can take a tracing paper. So this is the white tracing paper. This is good to have on hand, just in case you are using a lot of dark colors. And all you have to do is lay the white side down, put your tracing on it the way you want. And I just take some washi tape. And I like to put it on both sides. It's just so that it doesn't shift to one side. Sometimes it will if you put it on just the center. Okay. And then you can take a stylus or a ballpoint pen if you want to see where what you've drawn. Thanks, Joan. And I'm just going to draw the stems of this pine tree. And I'm going to stop where, well, yeah, I'll stop there just so it's easier for you guys. Don't go over your bells. Actually, yeah, I will go over my bells because there's painting on top of that. So go over your bells. It's easier for putting in the needles then. You don't have to kind of paint around stuff. There's one on the bottom here too. So I'm not painting the owl in or the bells, just the needles. Then before you pull it up, just lift it to see if it's gone through. Okay, I can see it. You know where it is. Okay, now I can lift it. And the first thing we're going to do are put in the stems. So I want you to get a round brush, or if you don't have a round brush, if you have a flat, you can use a flat. You want it fairly chiseled on the edge though. You don't want it flared. If you have a angled, you can use that too. These are great because you can get into tight little areas with the point. So one or the other, a round, or you want a fairly small round. It's all worn off. This is probably about a 2, probably. So I'll show you on different brushes what you can do. What we want to get is we have our dark brown, our black, and a little bit of that buff color. So I want to take some of the brown, a little bit of the black, mix it together. You kind of want a brownish black, fairly dark. And then just put your brush in there, add a little bit of white. Okay. Kind of want a semi cream. It's kind of a grayish color, but a little bit of brown in it. If you find it's too light, add a little more brown. Don't worry if it's not mixed thoroughly. That's even better. And then take your brush, wipe it off. You don't want a whole bunch of paint in your brush because you want a nice chiseled edge. Then you take your brush, put some paint on both sides, wipe it, and then with the chiseled edge, I'll bring you in a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. Let's see, there we go. We will start with this one here, and it's just up and down. So, and don't put your arm on the table, and just guide it down. So it's very light. It's not very dark, but you can see it. If you find it's too light, darken it a bit. So that's what I'm going to do. So we'll do this one. So it's straight up and down, you're holding your brush. I'll do one more and then I'll switch to the round brush. You always wet your brushes, but don't have a lot of water on it. Just pat it off in your paper towel. You don't want it dripping. Put some paint on it so it's not dripping with paint. And then the same thing. So I'm just using the tip of the brush and not pressing hard. And remember, we're going to be covering a lot of this with pine needles. So if you think it's too thick, don't worry too much about it. This here. And down here. And you can add more if you want later too. You don't have to put it all in one. Let's see, I think I missed one here. I've missed this here. So I'm just going to throw in a few. All right. So how's everyone? Any questions? Hi, Dot. Oh, that's fine. Have a good Zoom meeting. All right. Now, to do our pine needles, there's different ways about doing this. Depending on the brush you have, if you really want to do pine needles, fur, feathers, that type of thing, I recommend getting one of these. This is a rake brush, so it's actually cut out. And these are great for adding multiple lines. If you don't have one of those, then I would suggest using a scruffy bristle brush. something that will splay apart when it's got paint on it. And this is all about light pressure. You might want to practice on a separate sheet to get used to the pressure before you do this. So I'll show you with the rake brush first. This is a 1/4 inch ridge. Oh, they call it a ridge brush. There's different names for it, ridge, rake. There's another one too, but look for something that looks like that. So we want more green. And I want a little bit of yellow. So I've got here just opaque yellow. You could use a cadmium yellow, a yellow ochre would work too. And I just want to vary the different tones to this. But right now we want to start off with a deep green color. So I'm just mixing some of the green with a little bit of that black. Now you don't want it too dark that it's not going to show. Depending on your background, you might have to lighten it or darken it. So this is all about a light touch and the right consistency on your paint, with your paint on your brush. So let's see, I'll start off over here and let's see. I get a piece of paper to show you. If you just use the tip, it looks like a fork. So it's all the same distance between each one. You don't really want that. You want it different widths, different pressure. So if you turn your brush a little on the side, then you can go like this, and it gives it different pressure and different lengths. It's kind of like dry brushing, but it's got a little bit more, it doesn't look like a pattern. You don't want a pattern. So see the difference? That's on the side, and this is just straight. And this is just angled. Yeah, hair strands too. Yeah. Yep, they do. I use this a lot, especially for animals, and grass is another thing you can use it for. Okay, so let's try here. So this is when I want you to remember, how do the needles grow? What kind of needle are you going to be painting? Is it a pine? They have really long needles. Or is it a spruce? They have shorter needles. Some needles are only on the sides of the branches. Some needles are all the way around the branch. Depends what you want. So I'm going to do more of a spruce type, which is all the way around, and they're a little bit shorter. So we want to start, too much water on my brush. Just dabbing along the sides. You may want to turn your paper when you're doing this. And don't forget the very end. There's usually some on the end. And they can overlap, but they're always kind of facing outward from the trunk of the tree. So what I want you to do is use the same color for all of these. This is how we layer and give it depth. So we're starting with the darkest colors. And don't forget, we have a few going on top, just not on the sides, but also on top. So we want to just start in the center of that stem and just throw some on top. You can overlap, but always go the same direction. That's the key, is to go the same direction as all the other needles. You don't want to go up and down and around, just the same direction. You can make them as wide or long, whatever you want. Okay, we'll do this one here. And it's light touch. You may want to try this on a separate piece of paper before you do it. You have to get used to using a very light touch. I'm just putting the very ends of this paintbrush down very lightly, hardly using any pressure at all. You may want to put a little bit more water if you find it's too dry on your brush, but don't have it sopping wet, because then you'll have a puddle. And keep the whole of your arm painting, not just your wrist. You don't have to get, really specific on this, because we're going to overlap this with other colors. So this is just your base. So don't get too worried about how they're looking. The only thing you have to think about is the direction. That's the only real important thing, is the direction. Okay. This one, you might have to lighten your paint color if you find your area where you're adding the needles is very dark. And just add a little bit more green or yellow or whatever color you're using to lighten it up or darken it. Okay, I'm gonna add a little bit of water. So very light sweeping. And don't forget to do on top also. So, any questions? Just put it in caps if you got a question so I can see it. Okay. Now this area is fairly dark, so I might want to lighten it just a tad. So I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to it. Or you can add that buff color too. Let's see if this works. Yeah, it's not too bad. Okay, I'll do one more with this brush and then I'll switch to something else to show you how to use that. In case you don't have one of these are great though. Once you get the hang of them, you'll love them. All right, now there's this brush here, or if you have a flat, something smaller maybe would be easier for you. Let's see. What do I have here? I guess I could try this one. See how it works. It's wet brush a little bit. This is a bristle brush. So again, light touch. And it's just the tops that I'm at the very end. More black. Green. You just have to, there's different amounts you have to put on the different types of bristle brushes, so you kind of have to play with it a little bit. But it's kind of like the dry brushing effect, that you don't want a really thick coat of paint. You see? And you want to go along the whole stem, because the whole stem usually has some kind of Now you could probably use a script liner too if you have them. They're a little trickier though, and they'd take a whole lot longer because you're only putting one line on at a time, which would be see. So let's try we'll try this one. So this is just a hardware store or Dollar Tree. So I just have a bit on my brush and just lightly kind of flicking. All of them give a different effect. So you can play with them and see which one you like the best. This one isn't actually bad, actually. It does do a lot more quickly. So I'm just lightly giving pressure. You can mix, I put green and black on, so that way you have an option of what colors you want to place in that area. A bit of a glare. Sorry about that, guys. You should have this on an easel, actually, so you can see it better. Okay, so nothing special, just get some color on, darker shades. Eileen. Find a brush you have. Not buy all of them. Oh boy. All right. So now you want to take your brush again, whatever brush you plan on using. Let's see. So I'll get my ridge brush. And now you want to add a lighter color than what you got here. So you want to add a little more yellow to that green. You know, you don't want it yellow like a really bright citron green. You just want it, we want to be able to put at least 3 layers on these. That's what gives you the depth. So you have your shadow, your mid-tone, and your highlight. No, I think I don't. Let's see, I'm going to get a board so I can prop this up a bit. So I can get rid of some of the glare. Oh, that's too big.
Oh, no, I saw some over there. Want me to get them?
What?
I saw some over here.
Yeah, that's a little bit better. There. Well, I don't know. No, that's not going to work either.
How about this?
No, I don't want to do it on. Oh, here, I'll do it on this. All right. Got a clipboard here. And then I can prop it up a bit. On. Yeah. How's that? A little bit better for you? All right, so now I'm going to take this greenish color. So I've just mixed a bit of, and I'm not completely mixing it so it's smooth in color. There's a little streaking in it. That's great. So now we do the same thing, but this time we don't have to cover as much. So you just want to lightly go over just portions of it. And don't forget to do the top part of that leaf or branch. So you don't want to be able to see the main stem anymore. You can leave bits of it, but you don't want a lot of it showing. Now you can look at your reference traceable if you've lost where your stems are, or you can just make it up as you go. Because the tree police aren't going to come and say, that's not what it looked like. You can make it whatever you like. So you just keep going. So I'm not getting too fussy about covering it completely. I want some of that background to show through. And remember, where it's thick in here, you might not see a whole lot of highlights in there because it'll be shadowed from the dimensional element of limbs overlapping each other. So you may just want to do the ends of them, maybe. So can everyone see all right? Or should I change my settings a little bit for you? Almost looks like there's a bit of a glare. I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't take much to make depth. It's really anything you do, there's a shadow, a midtone, and a highlight. If you can find your colors for those, usually it's just by either adding a bit of brown or a bit of black to your midtone to get your shadow color, or a little bit of white or buff or maybe yellow or whatever color you're doing on your painting. And this is when your painting starts to come alive with depth and more 3D looking. This here, I'll just put a few. Light touch, just remember, light touch. And if you need to rotate your paper or your canvas, whatever you're working on, do it. If it's easier to do the stroking. But I'm still doing the same direction. That's the main thing. Keep the direction of your needles going the same way all the time. So wherever the stem is, you're kind of doing capital A in a way. So you got to pay attention to how it's growing. Now this owl can be changed for different seasons too. So maybe you don't want pine tree, maybe you want an apple tree or a pear tree or even just a normal tree without any fruit in it. You don't have to use a pine tree. You can still use the same owl. Not in. But just change up what's around it. That's all you have to do. A lot of paintings can be done that way. If you like the main topic, like the owl would be the main topic, just change things around it. Maybe add snow to these branches if you want a really wintry look. Okay. Okay, so that's what we got so far. Now we add either a little of the cream to that mix to make it lighter, or if you want more yellow, I like the yellow in it. Just gives it a really bright highlight. And then you go over just certain areas. And it's more on the top part and the ends. And you don't have to do every single one. You could just do a few if you want. It's wherever you think the light would be hitting it the most. You could add lights, tinsel. A bit of water in my brush. There we go.
Oh, great for palm trees.
Yeah, this brush would be great for palm trees too. It's great for watercolor if you can get one for watercolor also. Oop. Keep getting out of frame. I'm trying to get this so just right so you can see, but I get too involved in painting and forget about you guys. So in here. And right here, a little bit more. A little bit of water on my brush. I'm going to be using this brush also for the owl, for its feathers. So really, you can get a lot done quickly with this brush. And a little more in there. All right. Now it's showing a little bit brighter than what it really is. It's not as yellow, but there's the start of our painting. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to put in our circles for our, so we want to make sure this is good and dry if you're going to use your traceable on top. And then if you have a template, this is a Fiskars. It's like decades old, but they're great for doing this type of thing because you want to make sure that your Christmas balls are actually circles. If you're doing circles, that is. So I'm just gonna wing it. I'm gonna put one about here. And I'm just going to use my paintbrush, or actually no, get a charcoal pencil and just draw your circle. The other one is a little bit bigger, and it's about here. And then the smaller one we'll put here. Actually, it's supposed, yeah, it could go there. Okay, so there's where our Christmas balls are going to be. Now we didn't draw in the stems or the big limbs. We can do that when we draw the owl into. So let's paint these up. Now I did have little toppers for it. You can put those into. Maybe you don't want them showing. It's up to you. You can make them however big you want. You want them fairly centered though. I'm not going to put one there because I want probably that to look like it's covered. All right, so now I want you to take a red. So we're going to use, let's see, I have Naphthol red in the Craft paint, you can use Naphthol in artist grade or student grade. Now, because this has a dark area, and you'll find most reds are very transparent, so you're going to probably want to put down some buff titanium in the circle to cover up, or else you're going to have to put a lot of coats of red on. So I'm just going to take and cover the areas that I want this Christmas ball to go in. You want a fairly good coat. So do all three of them. Try to get your circles as much of a circle as possible. That's your favorite red, Kathy? Yeah, it's a good red to have. There's cadmium reds, there's all kinds, but I really like Naphthol. Alrighty. Get that a little rounder. All right. I think that'll do. And dry it. Make sure it's good and dry. Right. Now, where did I put that? Okay, so we're going to put a coat of the Naphthol red on top of this, the whole thing. So you can take whatever brush is easier to use. Doesn't matter if it's angled or flat brush, whatever you got. Doesn't matter. You just want a fairly uniform coat of paint on. Now, if you don't want red, you can put whatever color you want. I'm not doing the top parts because they're going to be a silver color. So don't paint them red. Just trying to get to very close to the edge without going over. If there's a little bit of white, don't worry about it. That can be a highlight. Try to get as round as possible. Turn it around. This one. Now with these red balls, what I've done is I got a reference of red Christmas balls just to see the highlights and that type of thing. And I found that the mirrored like Christmas balls that you could see yourself in, they would be a little more difficult for beginners to do. So I'm doing a what do they call it? Frosted instead, because they're a little easier as far as highlights. All right. So any questions? Let's bring my highlight down a little bit. Let's see, maybe that's a bit better. Okay. All right, so we want to dry those before we continue. Thanks, Laura. The nice thing about these videos is if I'm going a little fast, you can always stop and then restart it. And these videos are going to be up forever, so you can do it whenever you want. And if you have any suggestions of things you want to learn how to paint, put them in the comments below. Now this part that we're going to do is you have to make sure it's really good and dry because we're going to do some dry brushing. Okay, this is really good and dry. When you're working on a canvas or whatever, make sure before you start painting after you've dried it, make sure your canvas isn't hot because your paint will dry instantly on a hot canvas. All right, still a little hot. So now what we're going to do, see these how they're kind of frosted looking? But see, we also have a little bit of a shadow. Same thing. Highlight, mid-tone, shadow. Everything has that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a purple, but we're going to use it fairly translucent so that the red still shines through the purple. And that way it'll give you a nice look of frosted matte looking, but you still know it's red. So if you have a nice dark purple, you want if you have a dioxazine purple, there's some in Crafters paint, or you can get it in where did I put that? I think I brought it out. Did I not? Yes. This is dioxazine purple for artist grade. I think they're probably about the same color. Let's see. I'll try the artist grade because you're not going to need a lot, but you want something very, very dark. Just a little bit of it. And then I want you to take a Deerfoot stippler. This is a Deerfoot stippler. So it's got a bit of an angle on it, and it's very fluffy. It's not soft-haired. It's kind of in between a really soft brush and a bristle brush. And you want it dry. You don't want it wet. So if you had it wet, which I did, you want to make sure you rub it on a piece of paper or a towel and get as much of that dampness out because you want it fairly dry. Hey, Sherry. Yeah, that's what I usually suggest a lot of people do, is just watch the whole video first so you know what to expect, and then go back and do it. And then you can stop and go, and you know what's coming next. All right. So now I want you to take this and just dab just a smidge of that purple. This purple is very, very strong. And then I want you to just swirl around on a paper or a palette, whatever you've got, and get that color blended into that brush. But it's not to the middle, it's just on the end, really. Then I want you to take either a paper towel or another piece of paper, and then I want you to brush it. Brush some of that paint off. Not all of it, but you don't want to put the brush down. Where's that paper I had? You don't want to take the brush and you end up with a bunch of paint. Like, you don't want to do this. So you have hard lines because they're hard to brush out. You want it soft like this. Okay. So I will take and get rid of a lot of that paint. So I want it soft. And then very lightly, we're looking at this one up here. And we're going to paint a few of these needles back over it after we're done painting it. But it would have a lot of shadow on the top of it because of the shadowing from the pine needles. So we want to start up there and just lightly go in circles, very top. And it might not look like you're doing much, but you are. You don't want a thick bit of color, and then blend it out to the center a little bit. But you want to go around your left side of your Christmas ball and stop as you're just going up the other bottom end. And just gradually add that color. And you want to what they call walk it out so that it disappears as you go in towards the center of the ball. And it can be a little model because that's what a frosted ball looks like. It's not really smooth. And you have all these colors and lights shining on it too, which causes it to be a little mottled looking. But you want your heaviest shadow on the left. Do that to all of them. So just a bit, just a bit. Swirl it around, test it on a piece of paper, get some of it off. You don't want thick marks. And then lightly. You want the darkest part too is on the bottom because it wouldn't be getting much light. So you might want to add a little bit more to there. Okay. So now I'm going to do this one. So this one's out a little bit, but it'll have a little bit of shadow on the top. Not much. Walk it out. More shadow on the bottom. You got to remember the shape you're using. It's a circle. It's a sphere. So if you can keep that in mind too, it helps with shading. If you have to, get a reference. Every artist, doesn't matter how good they are, use reference. So don't let anyone tell you that you can't use a reference. Okay, now we'll do this one. I'm going to start on the bottom of this one. It has most of the shadow. And I'm working my way up. And as I work my way up, it gets a little less. And then this one won't have as much because there's not as much shadows being casted by the limbs and stuff. So I'm just putting a smidgen up there, not much. Okay. And then dry or rinse your brush off in water and try and dry it as much as possible. Because now we're going to put highlight on. I'm back. Couldn't get into a Zoom meeting, so how good. Aw, that's. I'm sorry, Dot. I guess a lot of people are on Zoom, so the internet's jammed. Hopefully you'll be able to get on later, maybe. But welcome back. All right, now we want, this has to be a little bit of white. So you're going to get your, whatever white you're using, titanium white or zinc white or cool white, whatever. And you just need a little bit, the same thing, a little bit on your brush, rub it in, rub it off. So there's just a smidgen on. And then our highlights are going to be on kind of a third of its way up in the, kind of up in here. So you want to put your brush down, swirl, start swirling it around. Ease up on your pressure as you go out. Now, sometimes they can have more than one highlight because of lights or whatever shining on it. So if you have a reference, you can check that out. I like to add just a smidgen of lightness just around the center area of this. Do it to the same place on the other two. Just work it in. The more you dry brush it, the darker the color will be. But you want the main highlight spot brighter where you started. The last one. Stay in the same spot till you get a fairly good highlight, and then you work it out. Because you'll have less paint on your brush. All right. All right, so we're done that. And if you have toppers, what you can do is get any brush, a flat or a round, depends what you want to do. I think I'll use a round. Where is it? And I'm just going to mix a bit of white with some black. I just want a light gray. Oop, okay. Somehow I got some purple. So you want to take a light gray color, and then I just want to, you can paint over your whole topper of your I like to bring mine into the bell a bit so it looks like you're looking down on it slightly. And then we dry it. All right. Now I want you to take either that ridge brush or you can use the very tip of this one. You have to be light-handed though. But you want to add a little bit more white to that gray you did. So you want it fairly light, almost white. And then just with the tip of your brush, from the center, swipe out towards the other side. Like that. So it's not much, but it does make a difference. And then try it again, and then we'll add some bright white. Just some bright white, and just down the center. Oop. Here we go. I don't know if you can see it or not. It's not the best lighting. I'm gonna have to redo my lighting, I think. Okay. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of that middle gray and I'm going to make a little loop. And that's it for now. So now we want to put in our owl. He's a very simple owl. So you can either use your tracing and put it in, or you can eyeball it. So if you're putting your tracing in, put it down, see where it lands, make sure that it's not too high and hitting the balls. There. I'm just lining up the Christmas balls to make sure that it's on the right spot. Okay, so then you just do the same thing. Don't get carried away with feathers yet. The main thing are the eyes. So you just do your tracing of the eyes, the beak, the feet, and you want to put the limbs in also. You can just put an indication of where the outline of the feathers are around his body. Don't worry about it being precise on the line, because we'll be doing that flicking like we did with the pine needles. So we just want an indication of where the body is. You might want to put where the head and around the eyes, how the feathers flare out. This will help you with how the feathers, the direction of the feathers. Don't worry about this though, because we have to paint the whole owl first, so you only end up covering it all up. Put the little feet in. and your limbs. I got everything. Yeah. Okay, so there's the basis of what we need to do. What?
It's white?
What's white?
Did you get?
Yeah.
And make it different.
Yeah, you can get all colors.
Oh.
Okay, so this owl's feathers is, if you look down in between here, it's kind of a medium gray color, kind of it's got a little bit of red in it. So you want to get a raw umber, or maybe even a sienna, and we could mix a little black in it. So you want to take, I have, let's see, where did I put that? Oh, sienna. Did I leave? Did I? Oh, I must get one. Spice brown. That'll do. I have one that's spice brown. So you want something with a little more red, not on the black side. So this is spice brown. So it's a nice medium brown color. And you can take your brush, either your round or a straight flat brush, and fill in your area, except don't fill in your legs or your branches or your eyes or your beak. You want all the rest of it. If you're finding that the brown is too see-through, you may have to put some white and do the way we did our Christmas balls. So let's see how opaque this is. Yeah, it's not bad. Okay, so we'll go over. Now, when we're going along the edge, don't make a nice curved line so that it doesn't, we want it kind of sketchy looking because your feathers will be sticking out. So just go like so. So it's sketchy. And do the whole owl. Don't worry about going over top of the branch because we have to do the branch first before we continue doing the rest of the owl. But you want to put this part in. So you just want to be able to see how your feathers are going. Let's see. His little face. So you want them to be fuzzy. And this owl can be changed up too. You don't have to do them this color. You could do a snowy owl if you wanted to. There's all different ways. Oh, you got a storm coming in, Laura? Dog is reacting. You got a ton of snow in the snow was falling off the roof here, and Chloe was scared of the snow. We have a steel roof, so it slides off the roof and makes a sound like thunder. And she doesn't like thunder. So just keep dabbing along, because when you're dabbing like this in the direction of the feathers, it actually gives you a little bit of texture, which is good. Just make sure you don't paint over your beak yet and your eyes. I think this stream's going to be a little longer than normal. All right, so that looks good. Don't worry if it's just a little bit see-through. Don't worry about it, because we're going to put lots of layers on this one. She barks at her own shadow. Yeah, I got one like that. She is at my feet. She's scared of the computer noises, the printer, the phone. She's special. All right, now we're going to do the limbs, and the limbs are going to be more of a black brown. So you want a fairly dark color. So you want to take some of that black and brown, mix it together. I might add a little, just a tad of. There. And then you just do a coat, a base coat over your limbs. Okay. If you got any white chalk showing through, you can always rub it off afterwards. It just comes off with some water, baby white, whatever. This is a really good painting to practice the strokes needed for doing fur and stuff like this, because of the pine needles and stuff. It's a real good one for those who want to learn different strokes, paint strokes for this type of painting, because there's so many different ways of using your paintbrush. Let's see, a little bit there. I think that's it. All right, so let's dry that. Make sure it's good and dry, because we're going to be putting another layer on. So let's put her, I'm calling it a her, could be him. I'm going to get a grayish color, so I'm just mixing a little white with that brownish color that I had for the limb. And I'm just going to fill in the feet with that gray color. All right. Now, the beak, you want to put the beak in and the eyes in. Now the beak, it's kind of a brownish orange. It's not a really bright orange color. So you want to take some of that brown, add a little bit of yellow to it. Maybe a little red. Until you get this orangey brownish color. Just play. This is a good way of playing with color too, and learning what color does what when you mix them. Because really, you'd only need the primary, well, you could use a maximum of 12 colors. Will give you all the colors you need. So the eye itself is also that color. So we'll put a full coat of that orange color, and then we'll shadow it. So have that kind of dull color, but we'll add some highlight in a minute. And just go over the center part. That's going to be black anyways. There's no point in trying to do a perfect donut. Try and keep them the same size. Okay. Now you want to dry that. And with your same brush that you were using, you want something that you can do fairly detailed work. So don't get something really big. Now you want to take some of that yellow. Yellow tends to be a little transparent. So check to see what, if it's more, but on the left bottom side, I want to put, yeah, it's a little bit on the opaque side, but I'm going to see what I can do. I want to highlight. And same on this side, but the right side. And you can dry it. You want to feed them? I'm going to make a little bit of an orange. Water it down. I'm just going to go over it. I think it was a little bit brown. And just, it's still wet, so I'm taking off some of that orange I put on. You could do this with colored pencils too. I do that a lot with eyes, or Posca pens if you're finding you're having trouble. I want a little more, let's see, maybe a little more darker color up here. The eye is shaded on the top. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, I can still see through that a bit. So I'm going to add a little more yellow to that. And I take some water, kind of see if I can walk that out so it's not so bright before it dries. No. Okay. Now I want, if you have a paint marker, black paint marker. Let's see, where did it go? You want to put the pupil in. This is a whole lot easier than trying to brush it in. Paint markers are fantastic. It's a little bit lopsided. Try and make them the same. Okay, so now we're going to go on to, also you can put the beak in. There's a little black line there. Now we're going to start doing the feathers. So you're going to take that ridge brush. Now we're going to start off with a gray, kind of a gray brown. So we get some of that brown you had, the dark brown. Add a little bit of black with it. And a little bit of white. Not much. You don't want it too light. get the right brown. Okay, and then around his beak, you want to start doing those dark areas. And around the outer edge of his head and eyes, if you see the marks that were on the traceable, it'll give you a guide to where those marks were. So check out your traceable so you can see how they're positioned and which way they're going. So make sure light marks. And as it goes around in between the eyes, they kind of overlap each other, and they kind of go over the beak a bit. So you kind of have to flick them over the beak a little bit. Just play. I know this one's taking a little longer than last week's, but I really like this one. I think it's so cute. So they have quite a dark ring around the feathers of their eyes. It's really got a glare there. And then basically just here and there, just remember the way the feathers are going. That's important. You have to keep that in mind when you're doing this, which way are the feathers going, and light touch. Oop. That one's not light. That one. There. Oop. Go over top of his feet too. The feathers would be ruffled. And then just kind of like little patches of color here and there. When you're going around the side of him, they tend to go out to the outside, and as you work into the center, they go straight up and down. Don't worry if you think you got too much. We could this can be done over and over again till you like it, because it's just a matter of adding more highlight or more. If you think you don't have enough shadow, you add more shadow. You just keep doing it until you like it. Even on his head, there's little patches. They're not as long as far as the length, or is a little bit shorter. More dabs, I guess you could say. Okay. Now he does have quite a bit of dark around the inside of his eye. So he has kind of a ring of black. So if you can take your marker and put a ring of black around his eye, try to keep it as circular as possible. And then we'll go back in with black paint and flick out from there. It kind of looks funny when you first put it on, but as you add the layers, it looks really cool. So now I want you to add a little more white to that mixture that you were playing with. So you got a more of a grayish color. It's more of a warm gray, I guess you could say. And you do the same thing, but this time, if you notice, there's kind of a ring around his eye here, but there's black also. But I want you to put that ring of gray around his eyes. So it's kind of in the middle. Try to have the little flicks go in the same direction though, like as far as the growing habit. You don't want them too crazy and he looks like he's had a bad day. You want them to go in the growing direction that they would be. That's probably one of the biggest things about doing animals and birds is you have to pay attention to the growing pattern of their fur and feathers for it to look semi-real at least, or realism. Okay. And after you've done that, you can do all the little flicks again. So don't cover all your black areas and just do them every once in a while. Again, the same way you did just here and there. Just keep doing it. If you want, you can stop and this doesn't have to be done in one sitting. I know a lot of artists will just do, say, the background and part of the middle ground, and then they'll put it away for the day and then come back to it, or go have a coffee, or whatever you want. Don't think you have to do this in one setting. I don't want you to find it's too labor intensive that you don't want to do it. If you're getting frustrated, put it away. This should be fun. This should be a learning experience that's fun, that you're excited to learn to do, not a chore that you're dreading. There's no time expected for you to do this. You just do it when you have time. There's days where I won't art at all. Some people have to be in a real artistic mood to do anything. Everybody's different, so don't stress out if you're not getting things done as quick as some other people. This should be fun. Okay, so I've got that one. Now I can lighten it up yet again. And do the same thing, but this time don't do a lot around the eye, just do the body and lightly. And you don't want a lot, just here and there. Flick, see how I'm flicking it so it looks like it's poofy? Around the edges. Till you'll find more concentration of the colors that you're using for the feathers. They're more concentrated around the edges. As you're going to the center, you're less concentrated. You're further apart. I can put some on his head. Again, just little ones. Don't do a lot. And then he just has a few in here, more on the ends of this darker gray. All right. Okay, now I want to do some of that black. You add a little brown to it. Don't have it black. Just add a little bit of brown to it. Now I want to, from the inside, just flick. Now you may want to use your Poscas if you don't want to do this with a brush. It can be a little tricky. you get too much, you can always go back in with the white or the gray. Then you just want to flick some of that into the lightly, just here and there. All right. Then along the beak here, you want to add a little bit more dark, just so that the beak stands out a little bit more. And then just here and there, again, just put a little the dark in here and there. You just go back and forth until you like it. Now, normally I would do these paintings in a video and then just take out the stuff that you don't need to see, like drying and getting things. But I always do a voiceover telling you the steps to do. I find they're a little nicer to watch instead of live. But let me know what you think. Do you prefer live, or do you like the edited versions? It helps me when making these, how to plan for them. Because some of them can take quite a while to do, depending on what the subject matter is, and the level too that I'm doing. Some of them are more advanced. So it's always nice to know what you guys think. Yeah, they turn out really cute. You just have to take the time. That's why I said don't rush. Just enjoy the process. It's fun. You just have to take time. Get a coffee, go have some lunch, come back with tomorrow. You don't have to do it all in one shot. I'm going to put a little bit of darkening around his eye here. And then I'm going to highlight his beak a bit with just a little bit of yellow. And then a little bit more black around the outs, or around here, because I can see that line from the paws got her paint pen, which I don't want. So I'm just going to dab some in so it's not just a line there. So integrate some of this black into that brown. It's a dark brown, but I can still see it. So just gonna just darkens their eyes a little bit, makes them cute. Just splay it out a little bit. Here. Okay, and let's do his little feet. His little feet, just use that gray color you had for the feathers. And you just want to put a highlight down the center of each toe. And there's a little knuckle there. And then there's his little toe. And just like that. And then I want to take a little bit of white. And let's put a little highlight down his nose, just a bit. Let's get too much water on my brush. And then we'll highlight the eye. Now the eye is kind of like a triangle, so you start from the center of the pupil and bring it out like a triangle. And it's like that, and then just press it, and then go back over it and lighten the center of it. Now, because the light's coming in from that way, this has to be lighter. So just take a little bit of that white and lighten that area with kind of a translucent white. It just gives a little bit of your eyeball will transfer that light from wherever the bright spot is there, will hit the bottom part of the iris. So that's what gives it the depth. You like both ways? The live is good for asking questions if you are working along. True? Yes, I agree, Kathy. Thanks, streaming, Kathy. No problem, Kathy. Thanks for coming. This was a long one. So I want to take a little bit more of that white and just add again, right down and across the knuckle. This just gives it a little more detail, a little more. Okay. Now you can take your Posca. You want a fairly fine line Posca. And we're going to put some shadows between his toes and underneath. So we got, let's see if it's work. Yeah. So just under his toes, and then where the knuckle is, you just bring it up a little bit. And then there's a little bit of a, I just take my finger and press it. Swipe it. So from here, swipe towards me. Just to bring a little bit of shadow. So wherever you think there would be shadow, which would be probably underneath him too, you can just add a little bit of marks, and you just swipe it with your finger. It just gives a little bit of a shadowed effect. Okay. Now they have little nails, so you can put those in. I'm just going to use the black. Like so. Okay, so now we'll do a little bit of texture on the limbs here. And what I want you to do is take your flat brush, and with that gray, you want to add some to your flat brush, just a bit. I haven't got a lot on there. And it's more like dry brushing. So you're going to think about the way it is round. And from the top, just curve it like a, so whatever way you think maybe it's gnarly, or you just add a little bit of color to it. Okay, then you can take your liner again and just dip one corner of it in some black. And let's find a spot here. And I just want that one side to be black. And then I want to come underneath here and just follow the line. And you're adding a shadow. Might be a little more under the So you're just shadowing the but I'm sweeping it upwards, so it kind of gives it a dry brush look, but at the same time, it kind of makes it look like wood. And you can go way overboard and put specks in it and whatever you want. That's up to you. I won't be doing that. For the owl, maybe you want to put a few extra highlights. So you can take a real fine line Posca, or you can take a, let's see, a liner or a jelly roll pen, or let's see, here's a jelly roll pen. And you can just do little sprigs. The trick about jelly roll pens is do not press hard. The harder you press, the less you'll get. So, and just put a few on the top here. They can be kind of rogue little feathers, little I like doing these weird looking little stray hairs, kind of like the baby ones where they have the funny little sprigs of fur, or not fur, but feathers. And you can just do a few little highlights here and there. Might have some on the sides. I'll stick to where the gray parts are, not where the dark ones. And just put a few. Just gives them a little personality. Makes them cute. And maybe a little highlight on his knuckles. A little bit more down there on his. And then you can highlight some of these if you want. Sometimes they're highlighted if they're catching the bright light. Just do a few, not a whole lot, because then it kind of loses the appeal. But just a few. Suggests that they're shiny and maybe they're wet. And I'd do it on the really bright ones, probably. Not necessarily the dark ones. And there you have it. And he's done.
Gold around there.
Oh yeah, I gotta put the string on. So you can use gray, or let's see. Yeah, you can use, well, I'll use silver. Silver string hanging on the, so you just pick a branch. This one's probably, you can do that, and you could put a bow on it or whatever you want. It's up to you how you want to spruce it up. And there he is. The little guy. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you'll give it a try. And if you got any questions, feel free to leave a comment or email me or leave a message on Twitter or Instagram, and post it on Instagram. Just tag me. I'd love to see what you're doing. Yeah, he's got beady eyes. He's like, what? So make sure you sign all yours, and yeah, let me know if you got any suggestions of what you want to learn how to do, and give it a try. And I will be putting the traceable up for you, and just give me about half an hour, and then I'll put it up for you under the description of this video. Right. Well, thanks for being here, and all my new membership people. Thank you so much for joining. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it, and make sure you go back into the comments or on the main page, and you'll see all the videos and traceables there for you. All right, so I'll let you guys go, and stay creative and have a great night. Bye, everyone.